We had an amazing story break over the weekend called the Panama Papers. It's one of the largest leaks in history. In fact, it actually is the largest leak in history. So let me lay this out for you here. The Guardian reports the following. The hidden wealth of some of the world's most prominent leaders, politicians, and celebrities has been revealed by an unprecedented leak of millions of documents that show the myriad ways in which the rich can exploit secretive offshore tax regimes. All right, so let me pause here for a second and tell you guys, this is a gigantic story simply by nature of the fact that it's the largest leak in history. But at the same time, I really do file this under www.noshit.com. So I'm going to give you all the information here, and then I'm going to come back and tell you some facts that we already know that I think are even more mind-boggling than the Pentagon Papers, that was from back in the day, the Panama Papers themselves. So they continue here. Journalists from more than 80 countries have been reviewing 11.5 million files leaked from the database of Mossack Fonseca, which is the world's fourth biggest offshore law firm. The records were obtained from an anonymous source by the German newspaper SZ and shared by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists with The Guardian and the BBC. So here's exactly what they revealed. 12 national leaders are among 143 politicians, their families, and close associates from around the world known to have been using offshore tax havens. A $2 billion trail leads all the way to Vladimir Putin. Among national leaders with offshore wealth are Nawaz Sharif, Pakistan's prime minister, Ayad Alawi, ex-interim prime minister and former vice president of Iraq, Petro Poroshenko, president of Ukraine, Allah Mubarak, the son of Egypt's former president/dictator, and the prime minister of Iceland. 6 members of the House of Lords, 3 former Conservative MPs, and dozens of donors to UK political parties have had offshore assets. The families of at least 8 current and former members of China's supreme ruling body, the Politburo, have been found to have hidden wealth offshore. A key member of FIFA's powerful ethics committee, irony, which is supposed to be spearheading reform at world football's scandal-hit governing body, acted as a lawyer for individuals and companies recently charged with bribery and corruption. One leaked memorandum from a partner of Mossack Fonseca said, 95% of our work coincidentally consists in selling vehicles to avoid taxes. 214,000 shell companies are involved. All right, so let me try to break this down in even simpler terms. The way this works is you have prominent politicians, you have prominent business leaders, even celebrities and athletes, they say, that get in contact with this company, the company whose name I've now butchered twice, Mossack Fonseca, something like that. Unimportant. But what they do is they contact that company, and that company says, oh, yes, we will go ahead and set up a company for you overseas, and this is our job to set up a company for you overseas. Fear not, we will set up a director of that company. It will be under a name that's totally unrelated to you and will in no way be traceable to you. And what you're able to do after that is basically take your money, hide it offshores, and pay no taxes. So, 214,000 shell companies they set up. What that means is 214,000 of the world's richest people, most elite people, have said, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, got no interest in this social contract thing, no interest in this government accountability thing, no interest in paying any taxes whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and let all the teachers and the accountants and the construction workers and the suckers pay their taxes. I'm going to put all mine overseas, and I'm not going to pay Dickie McGee's tax. That's what this leak is about. Now, at the beginning of the story, I told you guys I do file this under www.noshit.com, even though it's one of the biggest leaks in history, and it's a huge story, because duh. Elites exploiting the system? No! You don't say. Now, one thing is interesting in this report, though, which is they've named nobody from the U.S. But I revert back to one of the points that was in my layout here for you. They say that this company, which I will now butcher a 4th or 5th time, Mossack Fonseca, they say it's the, quote, fourth biggest offshore law firm. I wonder what's going on at the top 3. You think there aren't U.S. senators in there? You think there aren't U.S. business leaders? You think there aren't perhaps people in the executive branch? Of course there are. The U.S. is not perfect. The U.S. is not incorruptible. They play ball just like anybody else. In fact, they probably lead when it comes to playing ball on stuff like this. So there you have it, a gigantic leak. We now know it's not just theory. It's not just, hey, I have a suspicion. Hey, it's a gut thing. Hey, there's other evidence that points to this in this direction. No, now we have proof, rock solid proof. Yes, there is a club of elites. There is a club of business leaders and celebrities and athletes and world governments and people within those governments that think they're above the law and they act above the law. And it's a common thing. Once you get in that club, hey, let me contact you with a firm that will set up another firm or business for you overseas, which can make it so that you don't have to pay any taxes whatsoever. Now, the two most important facts here, which we knew before we even got these leaks. There's one address in the Cayman Islands that has 18,000 businesses registered to it. How amazing is that? Because they're just rubbing the corruption and the tax dodging in your face. They're saying, no, yeah, we've built it into the system. If you're rich enough, yeah, you get away with whatever the fuck you want to get away with. 18,000 businesses registered to one address in the Cayman Islands. And how big overall is the tax dodging industry worldwide? I hope you're sitting down. $20 trillion. Tax dodging is a $20 trillion industry. Now, again, think about it. If you're a construction worker, a teacher, an accountant, just a regular person working a regular job, you have a 9 to 5 and you got to feed your kids and pay the rent and all that stuff. If you don't pay your taxes, it's called tax evasion or tax dodging, and you go to jail. If it's one of the elites that dodges their taxes, they're not doing tax evasion. They're not tax dodging. They're using a tax haven. And it's, I forget which comedian said it, but there was somebody who made a great point. They're like, doesn't that even sound much better than if somebody's doing tax evasion? It's like tax haven. My money's going to get a tan in the Cayman Islands or in the Bahamas. So they do it and they get away with it, and then they get what's called tax holidays, which is, all right, we got to bring more revenue back into the United States, and perhaps we can get it from these rich people who've been not paying their taxes all along. That's a wacky idea. So let's go ahead and make them bring their money back into the country, but instead of having to pay the original tax rate, which they would have had to pay if the money was here, we'll give them a break, we'll cut it by 70%, and then let them bring it back in here. Is that how it works with you? Hey, I didn't pay my taxes for 8 years. You think they're going to come by and be like, all right, now let's negotiate? No, they're going to lock your punk ass up. There are two different sets of laws, two different sets of rules. If you're rich, if you're elite, more importantly, if you're part of the donor class worldwide, you can basically do whatever the fuck you want. If you're a regular person, you better follow the damn rules. But now we blew the lid off the whole thing, and we know there is stuff going on. It is funky stuff behind the scenes, and it is deeply corrupt.